The opinions expressed in this show are the views of the host and not necessarily that of WTRW, 94.3 The Talker, or the Bold Gold Media Group.
The following presentation is paid for by Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate, who is solely responsible for its content. Portions transcribed.
All Century 21 real estate offices are independently owned and operated.
Hi, I'm Jackie Ruddy, broker of Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate. Welcome to the Real Estate Roundtable on 94.3 FM The Talker. I'm here with my husband, co-host, fellow realtor, Pat Devaney.
Good morning, Jackie. How are you today?
Wonderful. How are you?
Very good.
We have with us Disaster Blaster, Gary and Matthew Lyons, owners of Disaster Blaster. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here with us. We're here every Saturday at 11 a.m., Sunday at 11:30 a.m. We discuss everything real estate. We have a full-time real estate office with many relentless realtors who've been listing, selling, and appraising real estate for 50-plus years.
You've been in the business 50 years?
Not me, myself. You know that. My dad started it.
That's a long time.
Jack Ruddy.
That's great. During the week, feel free to email us with any questions you have at questions@jruddy.com. That's questions@jruddy.com. Or you can give us a call at 570-344-6724. And when you're at jruddy.com, we have a webcam up on the roof. Beautiful new camera. We get great views of the corners, and take a look at that. We get hits from all over the world on that camera, thousands of hits a month. We really do. It's amazing.
Check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest. View our listings. Search the MLS listings. Listen to archive radio shows by going to mobile-friendly-jruddy.com, JRUDDY.com, where you can also find all the popular podcast apps that we feature our radio show on. Okay, Gary and Matthew Lyons, owners of Disaster Blaster. What is Disaster Blaster? Who are you? What do you do, please?
So Disaster Blaster is a mitigation restoration firm. So we specialize in everything from water damage mitigation and mold remediation to basement waterproofing, asbestos abatement, radon mitigation, meth lab remediation. Pretty much anything that's in your house that you don't want there, we can pretty much get rid of. We also are now a national franchise system, so we're looking for franchisees in 32 states presently and growing. So
excellent, very good. And how long have you been doing what you do?
Since 1996, we've been in the industry.
Okay, wonderful. You're the president, Matthew. Gary's the vice president, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right, you're based in Scranton.
We are.
And you go where? What areas do you service?
We service pretty much northeastern PA, so about an hour or so from the Scranton area. So we go down to Hazleton and we go out to Monroe County and pretty much everything in between, out to Tunkhannock area.
And you were doing the COVID-19 cleanups for companies and people that needed that service. Is that something that's still occurring?
Thankfully, that's not a service that's really necessary any longer, and nobody's happier about that than we are.
Okay, good. But you do biohazard cleanups, and so that's one of the services that you provide. Hoarding as well.
Correct.
All right. So let's talk about, the name of your company is Disaster Blaster. You blast disasters. Let's talk about how we can avoid disasters in our home over the winter. It's a perfect time to talk about the things that we really need to focus on, maybe forget at this time of year. And it's fall. What should we be doing?
Sure. So a lot of that is maintenance, common things like that. You want to make sure that you're maintaining heat in the property. One of the most common causes for pipe breaks and freezing issues is going to be lack of heat. We also want to recommend generally that you want to keep into consideration areas of your home that would be more susceptible to issues. So bathrooms, kitchens, areas that have plumbing, crawl spaces. And you want to allow heat to access those areas. So one thing that we see a lot is limited heat in bathrooms and kitchens, but constantly keeping those doors closed. When not in use, obviously, you want to try to leave the doors open so that as much heat is able to get into the space as possible.
I can't tell you how many people with electric heat turn off the thermostat, shut the door, and just heat the areas that they primarily live in.
Very true.
And they're just begging for problems there. But it happens.
Absolutely. And it's surprisingly common for water lines to be in exterior walls, which are going to get colder than the rest of the house generally as well. So a lot of people don't realize that you're not just heating the space that you're living in and the comfortable area. You're trying to penetrate inside those walls so that those pipes don't get too cold.
Right. Okay, good advice.
How about keeping the doors open underneath the cabinets in the kitchen? You know, I used to live down on the beach, and it was Breezy Point, and it was called Breezy Point for a reason, because that's what you hear all winter. And the house was built, and the pipes were in the outside wall. So we used to have to keep the cabinets open underneath so we wouldn't get frozen pipes.
Yeah, that's a great example. It's something that you don't think is going to have that big of an impact, but it certainly can. In a pinch, you can also leave the water run at a trickle, because moving water is less likely to freeze. So, it's better to use a little bit more water than to have a break and use a lot.
You bring to mind the fact that some people move out of their properties they found another house, they're living in another house, they might be in the area, out of state, whatever the case might be, they turn off the heat. It's a big, big problem. Mm-hmm. And they get somebody, their neighbor, to winterize. But there's a proper way to winterize.
There is, yeah. We see in our industry a lot of people that leave the heat either turned too low or turn it off before they leave. Another common thing is running out of heating oil or gas if you have a canister during those months, and because you're not there to check on it, you don't know that that has even occurred. So you certainly want to make sure that you're kind of keeping on top of that.
So what is the lowest temperature I should safely leave my house when I leave it? I was told 55 degrees, because if I do less than 55 degrees, the guy was trying to explain to me, he says things start moving. He says, like if you have sheetrock, he says sometimes the tape starts to split. So what temperature do you recommend?
55 is generally the recommendation, but you do have to keep in mind it will be different per property. So as an example, I live in a 1900 Victorian. So
some parts are warm and some parts are real cold.
Yeah, some parts get really, really cold. So I have to kind of keep in mind that, my kitchen is a lot colder than the rest of the property. So I have to have the heat a little bit warmer just to make sure that I have that penetration.
Okay. Good advice. A lot of owners like to not only shut off the heat, but winterize, shut off the water, shut off the electric, because they don't want to pay the utilities, especially during the winter, because they're higher expenses. And so we find that it's usually a challenge when we're selling a house, when you go into the house and it's freezing cold, there's no lights. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't look right. Not only that, even if you do find a buyer, the agreement of sale says that the utilities must be turned on. If you have everything turned off, in the wintertime, it's harder for those utility companies to come out, turn those services back on.
Right. Can you even do an appraisal when everything is turned off?
The appraisers, they make sure that the heat's on, that the water's running, and they need the utilities on. For inspection purposes, the utilities have to be on. But a lot of people want to save money, and I understand that. But it's a no-no, because the agreement of sale, the buyer has every right to do inspections, appraisals, property inspections, and it's just the house shows so much better when it's warm.
Well, you mean you don't like to see your breath when you're in there in the living room? But when you're winterizing a house, the correct way to do it is to open the lines and not just drain them, because these houses are not designed to be winterized, a normal house. You have to go in, you need compressed air, you have to blow out all the lines. What about if there's water in the boiler? And it gets too cold, and then it freezes and it cracks your boiler. What's that, $5,000 right there? Go ahead, Gary.
Well, the boiler needs to be drained. The lines have to be drained and blown out. And what a lot of people don't think about is you have all the drains, too.
Well, the traps.
The drains, typically what you would do with drains is just pour antifreeze down into the drains. That'll sit in the trap and stop it from freezing. And, the problem here is if you have a break in the line, and you have the water shut off, you're not going to know it until you turn the water back on, and then you got a big problem. So you want to make sure that you do this correctly. It's not something most homeowners can do.
No, right. Or their neighbor.
Or the neighbor.
that has limited knowledge or watches a YouTube video.
Uncle Henry, he knows everything. He'll come by and fix it for you.
Okay, yeah, all right. So what else are we doing with our homes now to get them ready for the winter to avoid disaster? Heat is huge.
Heat is absolutely huge. You want to make sure that you're taking any steps that you can to prevent any potential damages. It's not just as simple as something where you have. You can even think that you're taking steps that will be beneficial, and ultimately they're not. So one of the things that we see a lot is over-insulation of an attic. So if you over-insulate an attic, if you're stuffing the insulation down into all of the ventilation and things like that, the ventilation's there for a reason. You can actually end up being surprised later in the year with a mold issue in the attic or some sort of a problem there. So it's best to consult a professional when you're doing certain things. Obviously, a lot of these can absolutely be DIY projects, but you want to make sure you're doing them properly because you can create a problem that you never foresaw.
Yeah, when we did our house over, we didn't have a ridge vent up on the roof, and everything got really well insulated. And a couple of months in, we went up into the attic, and it was moist up in the attic, so we had to have that taken care of right away. That was something that was unforeseen in the renovation because we didn't do the roof. But then we did do the roof.
Yeah, speaking of roofs, the other thing you want to do is make sure your gutters are clear and clean them out if they need to be. Because what will happen is you get that snowstorm and then the gutters are blocked. That ice and water will back up under your shingles and you'll have a roof leak that won't be pretty.
You get an ice dam,
yes.
You'll have all that weight on your gutters, and it'll be penetrating into the house.
Yep.
So
It's a disaster. Okay, what about getting back to heat? People like to use space heaters, plug-in electric heaters, kerosene heaters, those gas space heaters. Any problems that you see with those items that people make mistakes with?
There's nothing wrong with using them, but you do want to use them safely. So they should be away from content items that could catch fire. One of the things we see a lot is people having them too close to curtains or covering them with blankets and things like that. I realize, it's tempting. You're on the sofa and you've got a heater in front of you and you throw a blanket over it so all the heat's under the blanket. That's a really dangerous thing to do, but it's very, very common. Different things like that. You just want to make sure that you're making sure that you're using them safely.
And turn it off and unplug it before you leave the house.
Okay, what about, so you mentioned fire, smoke, and so that's one of your services, fire and smoke cleanups. So you see, I'm sure during the winter, some things that happen around the holidays and fireplaces, people cooking in the house, little fires to big fires. You do it all.
Yes. Yeah, and fires are more common in the winter months. Same with furnace puffbacks and things. People are getting their furnaces started for the year. Maybe they haven't been serviced, and you end up with a combustion issue and you have smoke throughout the property.
What's a puffback? Could you explain that?
So a furnace puffback is when the furnace misfires or there's a combustion issue, and it essentially burns dirty. And it sends the smoke throughout the property. So because your furnace is connected to all of your ductwork, it uses the ductwork to essentially funnel that smoke into every room in the house.
Is that exclusive to oil systems, or could it happen on a gas system also?
It's more prevalent with oil, but we have seen it with gas as well. Gas actually ends up being a little bit, you can't see it on the walls, but it still has that odor.
I was thinking that you were going to say oil would be harder to clean up.
Well, they could see the oil. You can see the soot.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we had a friend of ours. We know who it is. They're down on Washington Avenue, and they have a big, beautiful house, and they had a puffback. And he told me, he's an insurance guy, he said it was $60,000. Is that possible to clean a huge house with everything? He said it was into everything. He says it was that much of a claim.
Yeah, you have to consider for something like that. You're not just cleaning the ceiling and the walls and the floor, but you're cleaning every fork. You're cleaning every piece of furniture. He said it was in his furniture.
Yeah, and the curtains and the rugs. He said it was.
What a
bad.
mess.
Yeah, it can take a decent bit. Yep, all the clothes need to be cleaned and. Everything. So, you have to look at it from the standpoint, top to bottom, you're cleaning every surface and every item in the property.
And everything can be cleaned? Even your electronics, it gets into your electronics? What happens with those? Electronics
can generally be cleaned. They can be serviced specially for that.
Do they ever operate the same?
Yeah. It generally what you do with an electronic is not only are you servicing the actual unit and having it cleaned, but you're testing them and making sure that there aren't any issues that you can expect. So that's not generally an issue. And often, if the items aren't on, so a lot of times people think of okay, I have my TV, my computer, if it's not running and the fan isn't actually pulling anything through the unit, it's not really going to have a lot of smoke in there. Okay. So most cases, it's not as bad as you might imagine as well.
I really can't even begin to imagine. I hope I never have to go through that. But wow.
The best way to avoid that is to have your furnace maintained regularly.
Yes.
Serviced.
Yeah, you want to make sure that it's serviced each year.
Each year.
Yep, and they'll essentially when they service a furnace, our company doesn't do this, but when they service a furnace, they'll essentially clean all of the nozzles. They'll replace anything that might need to be replaced. That way you're less likely to have a combustion issue or a dirty burn.
So it's best to spend a couple of $100s in the beginning than to have the $60,000 claim.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we do our best to try to get everything cleaned up and taken care of as quickly as possible. But there's no avoiding that's an inconvenience.
Just imagine. I mean, you have to clean all your clothes. Is doing a regular load of laundry enough, or does it have to be specially cleaned?
So depending on how heavily soiled everything is, regular dry cleaners and laundry services often can't deal with smoke issues. So it usually does need to be specially laundered.
Sent out.
Yeah.
And then what is artwork? People have, a lot of money in artwork. Did you ever see anything that could not be cleaned from a puffback?
The most common thing with puffbacks that isn't cleanable are going to be the ceiling and the walls. We can, in those cases, we can seal it in and repaint. That's common. But most cases for content items, they can be cleaned. The only thing that I can really think of that we do run into from time to time is white manufactured plastics. They tend to have a bit of a positive charge to the plastic, so they can kind of attract the smoke
and lock it in.
Yeah. So that's something that we always can attempt to clean, but sometimes they don't come clean.
Oh man.
Yeah, lots of work there, a lot of man hours. So that's a big thing. Okay, Gary and Matthew Lyons, owners of Disaster Blaster. How does someone get in touch with you, please?
They can contact us at the office. Our phone number is 570-963-1123. Or they can visit our website at www.disasterblaster.com.
And you have a social media presence?
We do. We're pretty much everywhere. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. So, LinkedIn. So if they're on social media, give us a follow.
Sounds good. Thank you. I would like to say hello to Kevin from 84 Lumber. He owns several Mustangs. We just saw him.
That's what he said. That's right.
Yeah.
At the trunk or treat.
At Friendly's in Dunmore. And he came over, introduced himself, said hello. We have our office mascot, the Mustang. Many people see it out in front during the nice, sunny, warm summer days that are behind us.
Yeah, it's a 64.5 Mustang.
And we brought it to the trunk or treat, and so it was there. He came over. He realized that we were there, and he said hello. So we want to say hello back, and thanks for tuning in every week, Kevin. Pat, would you like to review a listing?
Yes, we have a beautiful 4-bedroom, 4-bath home at 407 Hudson Street in Music for $399,000. This home was built in 1998 with quality and detail in mind. It's got granite countertops and the large gourmet kitchen, a sunken living room, a dining room with oak hardwood flooring. It's got 2 laundry areas and low taxes of only $2,700 a year. It also has an amazing outdoor area with a covered rear deck and surround sound, a fenced-in yard, and a beautiful in-ground pool. That's a 4-bedroom, 4-bath home with an in-ground pool at 407 Hudson Street in Moosic for $399,000, and that's listed by Kim Pizzanti.
Stay with us. We'll be right back with more Real Estate Roundtable with Century 21 Jack Ready Real Estate on 94.3 FM The Talker. When considering to sell or buy a home, why choose Century 21 Jack Ready Real Estate? Let me tell you why. 70% of home buyers settle for the first agent they meet, and many regret it. 90% of home sellers hire an agent, but was it the right choice? Don't have agent remorse. I'm Jackie Ruddy, and I've been in and around the real estate business for most of my life. And at Century 21 Jack Ready Real Estate, we've been selling real estate for half a century. But we do not do it halfway. You deserve better than average. Average doesn't help you. We know it's all about you and what you need. Century 21 is the #1 in brand awareness, is the most recognized name in real estate, and is the most respected in the industry. In this market, if you dream big, you need to move fast. So it makes perfect sense to contact Century 21 Jack Ready Real Estate, 570-344-6724, and visit jready.com. That's JRUDDY.com. Thanks for joining the Real Estate Roundtable with Century 21 Jack Ready Real Estate. I'm Jackie Ruddy, broker, and with Pat Devaney, my husband, fellow realtor.
And we're back.
With Gary and Matthew Lyons, owners of Disaster Blaster in Scranton. Thanks for being here, guys. You're no strangers to our program. You've been here countless times before. You're pros, and you're always on the TV. Every time I turn on the TV, you're being interviewed. And you now are offering franchise across 32 states?
Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep, we franchised
Big
the
move.
business. Yes. Yeah, we're very excited about it. We franchised the business this past year, and it's something that we're very excited to work with other people about so that they can open their own franchises.
Okay, just give me a rundown of what you do. All the services you provide, please.
So Disaster Blaster is a mitigation restoration firm. So we do everything from water damage mitigation and mold remediation to basement waterproofing, asbestos abatement, fire and smoke cleanup, meth lab remediation, radon mitigation. Pretty much, we can take care of a lot of issues that come up.
All right, very good. You have a personal story, a personal puffback story, do you not?
I do. About a month after buying my house, I had a puffback.
Oh, God.
No, we were talking
lucky
about
me.
puffbacks before the break.
Yes.
And so on the break, you shared your story.
Yeah. So in my house is an older Victorian. I purchased the property. I got all my stuff moved in and had a puffback. So everything was already there. It was perfect. So we had to, fortunately I know a guy and we were able to get in there and get everything cleaned up and all of that. It was, so I completely understand from both sides. It's an inconvenience, however you slice it. You've got people in your house, going through and cleaning everything and taking care of it. But we are here to help, and that's what we do every day. So, we go from the top down and clean everything, structure and contents.
All right, good. And unfortunately, you've had other disasters in your home.
I've not been lucky. I've also experienced roof leaks. I had a very significant pipe break that caused significant damage to my bathroom and kitchen. And I've also had my basement flooded twice. I think that's everything. But I have a lot of new stuff, but I work very hard to make it still look like it's original.
Yeah, I'm sure that costs money. But so you've experienced firsthand, so you can connect with people on that level. What's going on, and there's an emotional toll that's taken.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very stressful situation to be in. No one expects to have a claim. No one expects to have damage like that occur at their property. Obviously, there's a lot of emotions there. So that's what we're here to help with. We kind of help along the process, get everything cleaned up. And at the end of the day, we're also a shoulder to cry on. I've I've had to console a lot of property owners during the process, and that's just a natural thing. And having been through it myself now, I'm well aware of those emotions.
People need to know when disaster strikes, there's a company to call, such as yours, Disaster Blaster, that not only takes care of their problems, but has also been through them. So that's good to know. And how does someone get in touch with you?
They can contact us at the office at 570-963-1123 or visit our website at www.disasterblaster.com.
And you're in Scranton, but you go all around the Northeast.
Yep. We're located in Scranton, but we service all of northeastern PA. So we go all the way to Wayne County, Monroe County, and down to the Hazleton area. So we have a pretty sizable territory.
One question I do have for when you experienced firsthand those pipe breaks and it was significant damage, did you have mold?
I did not, but pretty much anything else that could have gone wrong in a claim did. Not from the Disaster Blaster side, but underneath so the kitchen was on my remodel list to begin with. So that worked out.
Okay.
But the kitchen had carpeting, which I don't recommend in the kitchen. But so I had wanted to take that out. Well, underneath the carpeting was asbestos floor tile. So that was now wet. And the kitchen was an addition at some point, so there's no basement underneath it. So in order to dry everything, all the floor tile had to be removed. So it became a water mitigation, an asbestos abatement, a significant reconstruction project. And because it was balloon construction back when they built that, when we opened up the walls to the kitchen, because we had to remove everything, all of the blown insulation all the way to the roof line fell out. So we we had to then address that. So it was one of those things. My insurance company was very good to me. We got everything approved quickly, and the work progressed. But it's one of those things. Houses aren't always built the same. You run into different things that maybe quirks that you have to kind of address as part of our business. My house threw a lot of those curveballs at us, but we adapted and we got everything taken care of.
Had you not known that guy, you may have had mold if you didn't get right on the situation.
Yeah. So when I had the pipe break, with my experience in our industry, I knew to get somebody in there right away, and I knew who to call, that being Disaster Blaster, of course, and they were there that day.
Yeah.
So we were able to get the drying started very quickly. We were able to identify things like the asbestos tile so that we could get the approvals quickly. So the whole process moves along faster if you kind of start the process quickly.
Very good. Would you come back next week, guys?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. We just had our bowling charity event, Dunmore Community Charity Bowl, and I want to give a shout out to the winners. We have Dunmore companies and the fire department, police department come and bowl. There's 8 teams. Our first place winner was Ricardo's Market in Dunmore, and they gave their $1,000 winnings to St. Francis of Assisi Soup Kitchen. Then we had Jen Ricky Abeloff, State Farm, who was second place, and their winnings went to the YMCA.
It was a good time.
Yeah, and Disaster Blaster was one of our sponsors. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, Pat, would you like to review a listing?
Yes, we have an affordable 2-bedroom home at 105 Crown Avenue in Scranton for $135,000. This charming home sits on a 40 by 150 lot with plenty of off-street parking in the rear. This home is surprisingly private as it sits back from the road a little bit. The home is in move-in condition. It has a completely remodeled bath. This home has low taxes of only $1,800 a year, and it's close to I-81 hospitals and the University of Scranton. That's a 2-bedroom home at 105 Crown Avenue in Scranton for $135,000, and that's listed by James Caceres of our office.
Thank you, Pat. Just want to tell everybody about a West Scranton Fall Festival. A City of Scranton's putting on. NeighborWorks gave us this information. October 22nd, Saturday. The festival will start at Clover Field, 400 West Locust Street, from noon to 3. And then there will be a lot of activities for children, bounce houses and candy corn bowling, etc. Second part will be at Allen Park, and they will be there from 6 to 9. That's on the corner of North Main Avenue and Price Street. They're going to give out some food, s'mores, apple cider, hot chocolate, live music, fire pit, etc. So if you're looking for something to do, Saturday, October 22nd, rain date is November 5th. Thanks for joining the Real Estate Roundtable with Century 21 Jack Ready Real Estate. We're here next weekend, Saturday at 11 a.m., Sunday at 11:30 a.m. on 94.3 The Talker.